the potency will save us at the time of death. Prabhu, we are ready. So, the next segment of our program is Sunday Feast Lecture, which will be delivered by His Grace Keshava Prabhu. So, Keshava Prabhu is a dedicated devotee from birth and an active member of youth community. He is scholar in scriptures and an exceptional kirtanir. Having trained in Hindustani classical music, he skillfully uses his music talent to glorify the Lord. Now, Prabhu is going to, with that, we will welcome Prabhu by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So I guess Hare Krishna, everybody. We'll start with Jai Radha Madhava, and we'll continue from there. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jana Vallabha. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, first of all, I'd want to ask for all of your blessings. All of you are my seniors, and only by your blessings and your request am I here to give anything from Shastra. Satyasar Prabhu asked that I speak on chapter 12, verses 8 through 12, approximately, about the various gradations of yoga and how we can be able to fix our mind upon Krishna without any deviation whatsoever. But in order to understand that, it helps to first see where this fits in the Gita and in chapter 12 in general. Chapter 12 is one of the most important sections of the Gita, especially for devotees, but in general, it's one of the most confidential and definitive portions of the Gita. Because already Arjuna is determined. This is right after Krishna's shown his universal form. So Arjuna says, okay, you're pervading everywhere in the universe, but you're also here before me. And I recognize that you're the goal of worship, you're the goal of meditation, but what's different between the people who meditate on you as being everywhere all around us, as opposed to meditating on your personal form here? So the first maybe 6 or 7 verses, Krishna very definitively answers that question. He says, sure, the people who worship the unmanifested form, after a long time they may achieve me. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities onto me and being devoted unto me without deviation. He's using this word mai, mom, myself, the personal form. For them, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Tesham aham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagarat. So Krishna gives this very definitive point of view. And that's where we start in our section. In verse 8, Krishna says, Mai eva mana adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya. Nivashishyashi mai eva atu urdhvam nasamshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. So, everything from before this point in the Gita has led up to this conclusion. And so therefore he talks about fixing your mind upon me. But what does that mean? We recognize, okay, personal bhakti unto Krishna is the topmost thing. But sometimes we don't realize exactly what a high bar that is. Because when he's speaking of that, then he uses this term without deviation. All of you all are devotees who have studied for some time. Many of you might be familiar with the definition of bhakti that Rupa Goswami gives. He says, Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karamadya navritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. And so he gives the same idea that anya bhilashita shunyam. Any other desire other than that which is for the pleasure of Krishna should be zero. No other desire whatsoever. You shouldn't even be covered by jnana karamadya navritam. Not even being covered by jnana, by karma, by all these other things. That's not an easy thing. That's not a low bar in any case. And so we can see examples that the devotees who are acting as just complete limbs of Krishna, they have no desire other than his desire. They are completely absorbed in knowledge of him, and without even a single moment, there will go by where they don't think about Krishna. When the gopis speak about Krishna in Venu Gita, in Bhagavatam, how do they speak? They curse Brahmaji, they curse the creator for creating this defect in their eyes where the eyelids have to go down and come up again. And in that brief instant, they don't get to see Krishna. I cannot speak for you all, but I can say for myself that I don't have that level of focusedness on Krishna. And so then Krishna gives the next verse, which gives a lot more hope for people like myself. Atachittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi sthitam abhyasa yogena tato mamichaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, I can very easily put myself in that, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Mam ichaptum dhananjaya. So, Krishna refers to Arjuna here as Dhananjaya, the person who gets wealth. And indirectly, what is this wealth that we're all hoping to attain? A desire by which we can serve Krishna. And what is that except this great hope that he's giving us through the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti? That even though we do not have a desire to serve Krishna, still we can be engaged in service and develop that desire so that we can constantly be thinking about him. This is known as the process of Vaidhi Bhakti, or following the Vidhi Marg, following the rules and regulations. Rupa Goswami gives the definition in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Yatta ragan avaptatvat pravritti upajayate. Shasaneneva shastrasya sa vaidhi bhakti rochyate. That somebody might not have any raga, any deep attachment or spontaneous, they're not spontaneously waking up and singing about Krishna like Mother Yashoda does when she wakes up. They're not spontaneously looking to see every moment, where's Krishna at? But they're still doing bhakti under what requirement? Shasaneneva shastrasya. They're going through other shastra. They've read through shastra that this is something that should be done. They have some faith that, okay, shastra says that by serving Krishna, I'll get to that point, or I'll become freed from my miseries. And so therefore I should do bhakti. Or Shasaneneva. You've come across somebody who's a devotee, and you can see, oh, this person, he or she is actually thinking of Krishna like that. And I want to be like him, so let me serve him. And he tells you, you should do bhakti. You should follow the principles of bhakti. Therefore, you'll become like this. And so that's Vaidhi Bhakti. And by following this process, then naturally we can bring ourselves to the point that's known as Raganuga Bhakti, where we spontaneously have a desire to serve Krishna. Somebody might argue, in fact, those of us who are not only surrounded by devotees, will come across many other people in our friend groups, in our families, people who have also studied Gita, and they'll raise questions about this. They'll say, okay, well, sure, Bhakti Yoga is one thing, but to say that it's the greatest thing, are you sure about that? Many of us have come across these people, right? That will say, okay, you're following Prabhupada's Gita, but he will say this is bhakti only. But is that really what's there? And if we don't know, then and we look in the word-to-word translation, then we can think, well, are we sure about that? Maybe they're right. Because it's true that Srila Prabhupada does not always translate literally the words being used. For example, right here, follow the principles of devotional service. The term being used here is abhyasa yogena, through the practice of yoga. And so if we just have the very slightest understanding of Sanskrit, or the slightest, very piecemeal reading of the Gita, it's very easy for people to think that Srila Prabhupada is not translating properly. But when you look more deeply into the actual thread that's conducting throughout the entire Gita, you can see that while he's not translating literally, he's translating definitively. This term, abhyasa yogena, through practice of yoga, it comes up other times in the Gita. In chapter 6, verse 35, when in dhyana yoga, Krishna is giving all of these long, different descriptions of how to sit straight with your back, your neck, your head in a straight line, your eyes are fixed on your nose, all of these things. And after this, then Arjuna says very honestly, he's a practiced yogi. He says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, Pramati Badavadidam, that the mind is very difficult to control, more than the wind. And he's able to control the wind. He has Vayu Astra, he can control. He says this is more difficult. And what does Krishna say? He says it's difficult, yes, but it can be done through abhyasa and vairagya, through practice and detachment. So he says, okay, the control of the mind is being done through various different things. And as he's going through all these various things, what does he come to as the definitive conclusion of that chapter? Anybody knows? Verse 47, the very end of that chapter, he says, Yogi namapi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana. Shraddhavan bachate yomam tasamyuktita momata. That of all these yogas, I've described all these yogas. And yoga is definitely the way by which you can fix your mind upon me. The practice of yoga, abhyasa yogena. But what type of yoga specifically? Of all the yogis, he whose mind is fixed directly upon me, without deviation, who rests in me, that person is the greatest yogi. Right? And using the benefit of context that we have here, this is coming directly after the chapter of the universal form, of the Vishvarup. And Arjuna has seen this form that's going all over the entire world. But that's not the form that Krishna spoke of when he said, Shraddhavan Vrajate Yomam, that you're worshipping me with faith. He's talking about his two-armed form. And in fact, after he gets rid of his Vishvarup, and he goes back to having his two-armed form, that form is actually more difficult to see, he says, right? He says, Naham Veda na tapasad, na danin na chejyaya. Shakyam eva vidho drashtam drishtavan asimam yatha. He goes back to his two-armed form and he says that this is actually what you're seeing with transcendental eyes. Brahma Samhita says, Premanjana Churta Bhakti Vilochanena. That somebody who has eyes of only love, they can see Krishna anywhere. Some devotees will say that Krishna had to, in a way, demote Arjuna's eyes just so he could see this Vishvarup and not see Krishna everywhere. And so that form cannot be seen by study of Vedas, not by tapasa, not by any of these things. How can it be seen? Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham eva vidorjuna gyatum drashtum chachatvena pravishtum chat parantapa. When Krishna speaks of me, when he says me, the two-armed form, Krishna, the term he uses specifically is bhakti. He doesn't use the term yoga, he doesn't use the term anything else. Bhaktya tvananyaya, without being mixed with any other thing. Ananya bhakti. And this one, Srila Prabhupada does translate quite literally. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So when Krishna says, just fix your mind upon me by the practice of yoga, if you have just a very basic understanding of the Gita, then you'll think, okay, any yoga will do. But because Srila Prabhupada is treating the Gita in its complete context, he skips straight to the conclusion. He gives the confidential understanding by which a very cursory reading would not give that. And so therefore, through bhakti yoga, that's the practice of Vaidhi bhakti, of regulative bhakti, that we can do that. In the study of Gita, we often come across people, right, that will say, oh, bhakti is the secondary path. Oh, bhakti is there because for the people who cannot do anything else. And once you read Gita more closely, then you'll understand. But that could not be more wrong for somebody who studies the Gita completely, as Srila Prabhupada has done. And so therefore, when he speaks of the highest thing in this ladder of gradation of practice, the highest thing is unalloyed, unmixed, without deviation, focusing on Krishna. That's Bhakti Yoga. That's Raganuga Bhakti. And that's what we are aspiring for. For somebody who cannot do that, or who does not have that level of unflinching meditation, Krishna has given this Abhyasa Yoga, or Vaidhi Bhakti, where we follow a guru, we follow the orders of Shastra. We don't attempt to act as though we have that while we don't. That mentality is known as Prakrita Sahajya, or treating something that's very elevated as though it's very natural, very simple. And we also will come across people like that in our practice, or we also have some of those tendencies ourselves, where somebody's thinking, oh, I know Krishna. Oh, of course, I'm always meditating upon Krishna. That, oh, like it's natural to me. Like, oh, I don't need to chant. I don't need to follow regulative principles. I'm always thinking of Krishna. I can say myself that I've either known somebody like that, or I've been that person at some brief portions of my life. And so this is very clearly denigrated in Gita, because it says, no, don't pretend that you have that if you don't, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing for you to do. Follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, practice in that sense. Abhyasa, or practice, means that there should be daily something that happens. That we should follow the practice of Bhakti Yoga through Guru and Shastra, as Rupa Goswami put it. Daily we should have some connection to reading Srila Prabhupada's books through the practice of Bhakti Yoga, through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. That we should be studying Srila Prabhupada's books regularly. We should be engaged in Kirtanam, in chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by doing so, by gradually having this practice means something daily, then we're developing this desire to attain Krishna. Now, there is a very few people for whom they're in a very unfortunate situation. They might not have family support. They might not have support in their country where they're being imprisoned, or they're being in some area where they're being watched very closely, and they cannot be doing Bhakti Yoga in that sense, direct Bhakti Yoga. First of all, that's a very rare circumstance. But Krishna gives some allowance for them as well. In the very next verse, he says, Abhyase pyasamarthosi mat karama paramo bhava marartam api karamani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Mat karama paramo bhava. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So, in the previous verse, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is there, and that is the highest thing. Even if we're not fixing our mind without deviation, we should fix our mind even with deviation. Through the practice of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, listening to Katha about Krishna, reading Shastra, following the orders of a guru, and chanting the names of Krishna, and repeating whatever we've heard from Shastra to others, as I'm doing here. If we cannot engage the mind in that way, then Krishna gives some amount of some recompense for us, where we can engage our senses also in serving Krishna, engage our physical body. Of course, engaging our mind is the part with which we will develop that desire. But by engaging our senses, what happens? We're naturally engaging our mind. There's one famous verse that's there in Bhagavatam that describes this, where I'll read the whole thing actually, because it's actually quite relevant. It gives the example of Ambarish Maharaj. Bhagavatam says, Savai mana Krishna padaravindayo vacham sivai kuntha gunan varnane karod hared mandir marjanadishu chutim chakad chita satkatodaye mukundalingala darshane dusho tadbhritya gatra sparshenga sangamam granam chatat pada saroja sodabhe srimatulasyarsanam chadarpite pado harid kshetra padanusarpane shiro hishikesha padabhivandane kamam charasye natu kama kamyaya yato tamas shloka janashraya rati. So Ambarish Maharaj is the example of a pure devotee, that he's completely fixed. And so his mind is fixed. Yeah, that's the very first line. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his words in describing the glories of the Lord. But that also extends to his physical body, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees, touching their feet. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. He engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service, in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. And so, Krishna is giving that. As part of Bhakti Yoga, there's Nishkama Karma Yoga, of whatever you're doing, do it for Krishna. And that's being said in various places in Gita. As many of you are undoubtedly aware, he also says, Yat karoshi yarashnashi yat johoshi darasi yat tapasyasti konta yat kurishva madarpanam. Whatever you're doing, do it as an offering for me. That's the standard for the devotee. And that's something by which, even if we're not doing everything for Krishna, we can do something for Krishna. And this is being given as the way by which we can develop that mentality within ourselves. And Krishna says, by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. As grihasthas or as people who are working in this world, there are times when we're not always working for Krishna, right? There's active work we can do for Krishna. There's many people who are here who, whenever there's a festival that comes up, they're always the first people that will be building the stage, building the Rath, building so many things to bring those festivals together. Engage in so many different active and practical services for Krishna. And when that doesn't happen, then the rest of us are also engaged in working for somebody else. Maybe not for Krishna. Maybe for Jeff Bezos, for Elon Musk, for all of these other people for whom we're forced to give work towards. And something that my dad told me that was actually really, really insightful is that when Krishna speaks of offering the fruits of your actions to him specifically, the fruits of whatever we're getting by working for all these other people is whatever Lakshmi we're getting. And so as a grihastha, it's very important for us to be giving some of our donation, some of our wealth in donation back to Krishna. Because otherwise, if that's not the case, it's very difficult for us to think of that as working for Krishna. Because I cannot speak for you all, but I can say myself, when I'm working in a factory in the night, like, very often I'm not thinking about Krishna. I'm trying once in a while, occasionally, 1 in 1,000 moments. But it's not able to happen every time. And so the higher practice is when we're actively engaged in fixing our mind upon Krishna by hearing and chanting. And that's the point with which Krishna says that you will still come to the perfect stage. It may happen that there are other people who are very unfortunate, who they cannot come to that stage. And Krishna says, okay, if you cannot reach for the highest thing, do something at the very least. Do anything. Ataitum ashaktosi kartum mat yogam ashita. Sarva karma phala tyagam tata kuryatatmavan. If you are, however, you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Now, some devotees point out something very specific. Before we spoke about giving up the results of your work to Krishna, giving it to Krishna specifically. That's of a higher level than this because that's working for Krishna. And Krishna still guarantees that you'll reach the highest stage by doing so. But for the other yogis who cannot bring themselves to think of Krishna and give it directly to Krishna, said, okay, fine, do something. At least come to the stage of recognizing that these fruits are not yours. Give them up to anything. Give them to charity, give them to somebody else. But if you're not giving it to me, something is conspicuous in its absence. Krishna is not giving any guarantee of their result in this verse. He doesn't say they'll reach the perfect stage. He doesn't say they'll reach me. But he's giving it as, okay, do something, please. Yoga means to find some way of acting. But this is not bhakti yoga, and this is not the yoga that will let you reach success. To actually reach that stage, you have to reach the point of actually offering it unto Krishna specifically. Specifically unto Krishna. And this is there in the very next verse also. If you cannot take to this practice, Shrehi Jnanam Abhyasaj Jnana Dhyanam Vishishyate. Dhyanat Karma Phala Tyagas Tyagak Chantiranantaram. That, okay, if you can't do that, then at least engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge, Jnana. Better than Jnana, however, knowledge is meditation, Dhyanam. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. Tyagak, Karma Phala Tyagas. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. He's giving a result here, but it's worth noticing that that result is much, much lower than the other things that were promised. In coming across like other people who are studying Sanskrit or studying classical music, we're coming across so many people in our friends and extended family who have some familiarity with the Gita. Everybody who's Indian has some familiarity with the Gita, right? And they will often have this sense of, oh, you're studying, you're doing bhakti, oh, this is very nice. But I'm a jnani. I'm studying Gyan. I'm studying Dhyana Yoga. Meditation is this higher thing. Or I'm studying Karma Yoga, I'm giving up all of my actions result, Everybody who's ever seen the old Mahabharata serial, if you ask them to explain Gita to you, they'll only have those two verses. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu karachana. Right? Anybody who's seen that old serial, they'll quote that to you only. That's the meaning of Gita. And yet here Krishna's directly contradicting them. Anytime they're saying, oh, bhakti is nice, but I'm studying jnana, something higher. Krishna's saying, no, actually jnana is at the bottom of this ladder. That you can do jnana, definitely, sure. You'll get some peace of mind. But better than that is if you can do dhyana, meditation, fixing your mind. Even within that, if you're fixing your mind upon Ashtanga Yoga and you're following Patanjali, his first yama and niyama, the first stages of Ashtanga Yoga, the yamas, the what not to do and what to do. At the very beginning, there's Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender unto Ishvar. It's impossible to achieve some result without at least a taste of Bhakti Yoga, which is stated there in Bhagavatam. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. So even if you're renouncing the fruits of your actions, you can get peace of mind. But until that comes to the state of karma yoga, of essentially nishkama karma yoga, which is dovetailed into bhakti yoga, by directly offering those fruits to Krishna, then that's not going to give you any desired result. And Krishna continues on in the last 7 verses of this chapter, describing various characteristics that make one dear to him. Characteristics of one that's very dear to Krishna. But once we've determined that service to Krishna personally, to the two-armed form of Krishna, Vrajendra Nandana Krishna, is the topmost form of worship, as is stated in the beginning of chapter 12, as is bringing through from chapter 11 through chapter 6, through all of the other forms of yoga. As you can see, Srila Prabhupada mentions, when he describes yoga and he's speaking of bhakti, that's not a mistranslation on his part, but that's skipping to the end result. That's going deeply within the understanding from chapters 11 and 12. Then we can see that these 4 or 5 verses start at this point, that personal devotion unto the personal form of Krishna, without deviation, without bringing your mind anywhere else, is the topmost form of yoga, is the most form of worship. It's going to bring you to the highest result of whatever liberation you can attain. That's corroborated by the rest of Gita, that's corroborated by Bhagavatam. For those of us who do not have that unflinching, undeviated focus, then Krishna gives the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, where you follow the orders of Guru and Shastra, and you're hearing and chanting, which is what we do. We're chanting daily, we're reading Srila Prabhupada's books daily. By doing so, we're developing this practice. And by the focus of Shastra and Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we can also see how our practice is going. There's so many different ways by which that can be quantified. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, then there's 8 stages of bhakti that are described. It's not a wishy-washy thing that like one day you're just going to wake up and you're going to not be thinking about anything other than Krishna. Shastra gives very clear gradated steps. In that framework, Mahaprabhu gives 8. Ado Shraddha, starting with Shraddha. Chatu Sadhu Sangha. Yes, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. 9 stages. Sorry, I forgot. In Madhurya Karampani, then our other Acharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes each of those stages in such gradated detail that it's like a roadmap. Every sadhaka can read that and be like, oh, I'm still on this stage. I don't even have Shraddha yet. I personally, I don't have enough faith in Shastra that it will impel me to follow. But I have faith in seeing devotees around me who have that. And I have enough faith in Shastra that I can follow. That's where Shraddha comes. And so, because we have faith in Shastra, then we believe that when Krishna says, you'll develop a desire to attain me, we have faith that that's actually going to happen. So we seek out the association of sadhus, sadhu sangha. And through seeking out association with them, we get initiated. And they say, okay, perform bhajan. Do this and this and that. You follow your guru and you're doing bhajana kriya. And through that, then you get anartha nivritti. Your unwanted things in your heart are becoming cleared. And artha pravritti, you're developing things that you want in your heart, including Mamishaptum Dhananjaya, a desire to attain Krishna. And that goes to a point where you reach steadiness or nishtha, where even if not all of your obstacles are cleared, enough are cleared where you actually have a desire to want to continue further. That's where Raganuga Bhakti starts, where you're actually having a desire to continue going more and more and more. And that continues further until you reach prema. And so our acharyas have given such a comprehensive and logical and very step-by-step framework by which we can follow that. And so whenever we come across people who are saying that bhakti is a wishy-washy path or a very, accessible path, it's accessible, yes. But just because it's accessible does not make it any less than the highest path that's described in the Gita. And that's specifically what Krishna is saying in this point, in these 5 verses. Both that it's the topmost path and that it's the most accessible for anybody from any point of view to be guaranteed to achieve perfection. I actually finished a little ahead of time. That's the first. I'll open up for any questions, any comments, any criticisms, anything that stood out that you all will want to take further. Any Shastra Praman that you think supports the point. Anything that you'll take with you. If nothing you'll take with you, then I'll think that I will have just bored you for this last hour. So I hope that you have something, some correction, some criticism, some support, something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nicely explained and very impressive. You said like you were a true whatever you are following inside and where we are not there also. I like that the honest telling and very inspiring to me. And there is no questions, but this is all like I wanted to share to you. So very impressive, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. By your class, like all youth and young kids will get inspired along with me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I really like your class. How you explain that we are not that we are not there yet, where we are undeviated from thinking of Krishna, but it's actually in the Shastras, so it's like normal. Like I'm not a complete failure. Like there's hope, and I really like how you explain the ways we can think of Krishna, even if it's one moment of the day or many moments of the day. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, this question.
If nobody has a question, then I'm perfectly fine with hearing anything that somebody remembers from the class. Otherwise, I'll have a feeling that everybody's going to immediately forget something 5 minutes from now, myself included. So feel free to share something that you remember from the class. It's something that the main points that stood out to you as well.
Krishna Prabhuji, beautiful class, Prabhuji. I really like the point that you said that mind is keep on wandering and we have to control our mind. And as Arjuna said that it's easy to, control the wind, but it's very hard to control the mind. And that's so true. Like within a second, we get so many thoughts in our mind. And if we can easily get to that level, that how to control it and get hold of it and focus on Krishna, then half of our bhakti will be easy to achieve. Yeah, I really like that point, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the class. I have a quick question. I think in the class you mentioned that one of the Prabhu wrote like all book about all the 9 stages of devotion service. Do you mind like sharing the name of the
Sure.
book?
So the 9 stages of bhakti are described first in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Mahaprabhu. I believe it's Madhya Lila chapter 22 that describes a lot of it. There's that verse that says Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sangha. Like, so he describes each of the 9 stages of bhakti there. So that's being described by all of our acharyas. There's one book specifically that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote where he expanded on that, where it's called Madhurya Kadambini, where those 9 stages are there, but he takes each of those stages and he breaks it up into sub-stages. So for example, like in Bhajana Kriya, in the practice of bhajan, or in Sadhu Sangha, for example, he expands on what Mahaprabhu says about Sadhu Sangha. He says, although Sadhu Sangha is there in the 2nd stage, theoretically, really, you do not get Shraddha until you actually come across a sadhu. Sadhu Sangha is the root of all devotional service, and it continues nourishing the Bhakti Lata, the Bhakti creeper, until past prema. Even after prema, sadhu sangha is still necessary in that sense. In Bhajana Kriya, then he also describes like 7 or 8 stages of unsteady devotional practice and all the pitfalls that you'll come across, all the things you'll come. I haven't read the entire thing, but even that section that I read, as a struggling sadhaka, it's one of the most reassuring things ever, because he says, oh, you'll come across, you'll have this struggling. You'll think, oh, I'm invincible. I'm gonna practice bhakti like anything, and I'm gonna do everything. And then like reality hits you, and then you're like, oh, I'm the worst devotee ever. I'm not doing anything. And all these things come by, and you feel very seen. When you mentioned about like not feeling bad, Shastra, because we're following the orders of Shastra, doesn't mean that this duality is there. Bhakti is described as this topmost thing, and sometimes one of the reasons that we feel like we cannot practice is because we don't see where we're at and where that's at. So books like this, or explanations like this by our acharyas, they give light to the fact that we are practicing sadhakas, and we should expect to see these and these things as we're reaching towards the stage of not deviating from thinking of Krishna. Like my favorite verse that I always think of that Rupa Goswami describes is that Syat Krishna Nama Sharitari Sitapya Vidya. That Krishna's name is sweet like sugar candy, sure. Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu. But the people who have the jaundice of ignorance, they won't taste it as sweet. It reconciles those two things. And so, by following sadhu and shastra, by following whatever our acharyas have given us, beginning with Srila Prabhupada, then we get those doubts resolved as we're going through our practice regularly.
So just add a comment to His Holiness Rampa Swami Maharaj recently gave the class on Madhurya Kadambini. So if you're interested, I can give the recordings.
Okay.
So it's 12 session. So it's a very lengthy one, very in-depth, detailed one. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. If anyone have any questions, comments. Okay, we'll move on to the next part of program. Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you for enlightening us. Now we have a Kirtan. Today's Kirtan is going to lead by Keshav Prabhu. Okay, so Prabhu is last. Unusual.
It's me. Stop it. Stop there.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo.
Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Tagore Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo.
Tagore Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol
Hari Ram Sankirtan ki jai.
एवं विष्णुपाद प्रपंच परिविराजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशतनाम एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद प्रपंच परिविराजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशतनाम एसी भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपी गोपीनाथ श्यामकुंड राधाकुंड गिरिगोवर्धन धाम की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की मायापुर नवदीप धाम की गंगा मई की यमुना मई की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की हरिनाम संकीर्तन की बृहत मृदंगा की हरे कृष्ण टेम्पल ऑफ ऑस्टिन की all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees,
Hare Krishna.
all glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're going to say the Narasimha prayer or?
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Nasimha Padato Nasimha.
Narsimho Parato Narsimho.
Ito Nasimha Padato Nasimha. Yato Yato Yamitato Nasimha. Yato Yato Yamitato Nasimha. Bahe Nasimha Hridaye Nasimha. Bahe Nasimha Hridaye Nasimha. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipur Tanuvingam Keshavadita Naraharirupa जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे।
Hare Kamala Bhara Raka Ota Shiva Sarita Hiranyakashipu Sada Brahma Keshavadrita Narari Rupa Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare.
जय केशवधीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे।
Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare. Jaya Jagadish Hare.
जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय जगदीश हरे,
Jaya Jagadish, Jaya Jagadish, Jaya Jagadish Hare.
जय नृसिंहदेव 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 जय नृसिंहदेव,
Narasimhadev, Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev.
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज,
Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj.
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
जय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
श्री श्री भक्ति विघ्नाशिनी श्री भगवान की, बच्चे शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की।